Turn your radios up. Turn your radios up. Y'all know what this is. Y'all know who this is. B-Eazy, that dude, back with another one. An impromptu stream. It's gonna be a banger. It's gonna be controversial. And I don't like to keep y'all waiting. So before we get this thing started, you know, I gotta hit you.
If you know the song, sing along. Yeah, you're right.
私も地元民と言っても実際世代です。もう友達できたの？うん。ブッダさんのこっち見ない方がいいか
な。This promethazine got me leaning like a cholo in the club. I'm 20 deep. I don't be riding solo. Pull some bad bitches, they vanilla and cocoa. They wanna take some photos when we kick it out in Soho. Chicks are showing tits and popping pussy for my promo. Told them like juvenile, baby, move it for me slow mo. Then I'm right back to the block, cause I keep getting moto. I be flipping, not shrinking. I don't give a fuck about no. This nigga name ain't D-Lo, but pimpin' these bitches and stacking this bread forever be my stilo. This is B-Eazy, that dude in the trap making pass smooth. If I ever go broke, then I'm about to pull a jack move. Since a nigga healthy, I don't even gotta worry. With my bitch from Fiji, eating tandoori and chicken curry. That ism is really envy. My pimp ain't international. I design my own clothes, so I be always looking fashionable. Here's a couple facts about me that y'all didn't know. Some of y'all be getting bread, but I be getting bigger, dawg. I got bigger guns and a whole lot of bad. And we are activated. We gon' get right into this thing. So unless you've been living under a rock, y'all know what has been happening. The story going viral, heard around the world. The media, the mainstream, the Democrats specifically, both political establishments are feeding off each other, but the Democrats specifically are trying to create this into a George Floyd 2.0. I'm talking about the story of Renee Nicole Macklin Good, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, a mother of three, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on January 7th, 2026. So this has sparked nationwide protests. There's a lot of political controversy. Many of the politicians and public figures don't really care about this woman. They're just using her demise as a political football to galvanize their base. Some are just using it to fundraise and to use it as a juxtaposition to say, hey, we're not like those meanie Republicans. We have a heart. We have a soul. So, vote for us. So there's a lot of that going on. But in case you're unfamiliar with the case, this is a political stooge, Jake Tapper. And this is the DHS secretary, the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary, Kristi Noem. So she's going to come up here and defend the ICE agents, of course. Jake Tapper is going to give her some let's just say lukewarm pushback, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So now that I set that up for you, we're going to get into the video and let's break this thing down. Let me know if y'all have any issues hearing this as well. Let's commence.
Really appreciate it. So it's been 4 days since this incident. The FBI is investigating the circumstances around the shooting. What new have investigators learned?
Well, I would say the FBI can give you the details of the investigation, but what we do know is that this.
And of course, I would be remiss. Sha-Ra King coming through #1 first to hit the stream in building. And of course, Ronnie Q, I can't stand Jake Tapper. Like, that's why I called him a political stooge and pundit. So Jake Tapper is almost as much as a clown as Kristi Noem. I think she edges him out slightly. But depending on who you ask, he may be an even bigger clown than her.
It was clearly a law enforcement action where the officer acted on his training and defended himself and his life and his fellow colleagues. It's a tragedy that this family has lost a loved one and that our country is dealing with the situation. But that's why we need our leaders to turn down their rhetoric. We need individuals and elected leaders in Minnesota to start partnering with us so that we can do law enforcement operations on the streets to protect the citizens that live there.
On the matter of partnering, state and local officials in Minnesota are asking to be allowed to participate in the investigation into the shooting alongside the FBI. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said in a statement that they've been denied access to evidence in the case. It is normal in investigations like these to be done with federal officials working in tandem with state and local officials. According to the governor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, and the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, DHS is not doing that. Why?
Well, we're following the same protocols that we've always followed in these situations. Nothing's changed. We do our investigations, and the federal government continues to do that with the Department of Justice. So
you don't work with locals?
We do work with locals when they work with us, but on the investigation piece of it, ICE and the Department of Homeland Security have a process and a protocol that we've always followed, and we're doing the same thing in this situation.
But what do you mean you work with them when they work with you? Like,
as far as operations on the ground, we would love that. These sanctuary cities, such as Minneapolis, are extremely dangerous for American citizens. And Jake, since we've been there, we've arrested dozens and dozens of murderers and rapists, individuals who have assaulted children and sodomized them. We just released a whole list of individuals just in Minnesota that we've arrested since we've surged personnel there, and it's incredible. So we would love it if the Minneapolis Police Force and the governor and the state police department would partner with us to help us do this work.
What about partnering when it comes to the investigation? Because Minnesota and Minneapolis say they're being denied access to information, and this took place in their streets.
You know, the investigation's happening at the Department of Justice. I run the Department of Homeland Security, and I really will continue to follow the same process that this administration has in place, but also the same process that the last administration did. It's always been the same. Nothing's changed in this process, and we'll make sure that not only do our law enforcement have the opportunity to get the training they need, that they have the support and the backup on the streets that they need, but they also recognize that when a tragedy like this happens, that we'll do the right thing.
But officials are saying that the Trump administration, I understand that you're saying that it's the Department of Justice, not DHS. But officials are saying the Department of Justice is not working with them. Should they be working with the locals?
You know, I would say that these locals, if you look at what Governor Walz has said, if you look at what Mayor Fry has said, they've extremely politicized and inappropriately talked about this.
So this is where Jake Tapper, who is a seasoned journalist, he lets her off the hook multiple times. He asks her a direct question and she's allowed to tap dance around the answer. I'm going to rewind it back. Of course, I got to give commentary to make it transformative and not get some sort of copyright strike. But he's asking her a direct question, and they're over here saying, yeah, we're going to do what's right. Yeah. Who determines what was right? Because some experts saying that the ICE agent was right, and some other experts are saying that he wasn't right. Some experts saying, hey, if he feared for his life, that the threat was an imminent danger, then he had the right to fatally shoot her. And others are saying it was part of his protocol to get out of the way and pursue afterwards. These are two experts giving varying
perspectives, you know. So I guess it's all up for interpretation. So when she's saying, you know, they did the right thing, and, you know, when there's these speakings of morals, but who is the judge of someone's moral character? What morality litmus test is being put forth?
That not only do our law enforcement have the opportunity to get the training they need, that they have the support and the backup on the streets that they need, but they also recognize that when a tragedy like this happens, that we'll do the right thing.
But officials are saying that the Trump administration, I understand that you're saying that it's the Department of Justice, not DHS. But officials are saying the Department of Justice is not working with them. Should they be working with the locals?
You know, I would say that these locals, if you look at what Governor Walz has said, if you look at what Mayor Fry has said, they've extremely politicized and inappropriately talked about this situation on the ground in their city.
So here we go again with the hypocrisy. So she's saying that the other side has completely politicized it. But before there was even an investigation, she was calling the woman a domestic terrorist. She was making all sorts of bold proclamations. That's politicizing it. Not only that, the person with the biggest megaphone in all of the land, the president, was also politicizing it. And just like attack dogs, many on the woke, wacky, weird right start parroting their talking points as well. So both sides are politicizing it. There's a saying in politics, you know, you never let a tragedy go to waste. So they'll find any tragedy and find a way to galvanize, find a way to divide, find a way to get some sort of political clout and mileage out of it. Both parties are doing that. Kristi Noem is no different.
DHS. But officials are saying the Department of Justice is not working with them. Should they be working with the locals?
You know, I would say that these locals, if you look at what Governor Walz has said, if you look at what Mayor...
And of course, I got to give a shout out to the lovely Jackie Gaines in the building.
Fry has said, the training they need, that they have the support and the backup on the streets that they need, but they also recognize that when a tragedy like this happens, that we'll do the right thing.
But officials are saying that the Trump administration, I understand that you're saying that it's the Department of Justice, not DHS. But officials are saying the Department of Justice is not working with them. Should they be working with the locals?
You know, I would say that these locals, if you look at what Governor Walz has said, if you look at what Mayor Fry has said, they've extremely politicized and inappropriately talked about this situation on the ground in their city. They've inflamed the public. They've encouraged the kind of destruction and violence that we've seen in Minneapolis the last several days. And I would encourage them to grow up, get some maturity, act like people who are responsible, who want people to be safe and the right thing be done. When you use the kind of language that you use against law enforcement officers, they lose their credibility.
You've also been criticized for your comments. The shooting, we should note, was Wednesday at 10:37 a.m. Eastern, just over 2 hours.
This is another thing, too. When you ask people, are law enforcement officers, are there just these benevolent, beings that are just above reproach? They would say no, right? They're civilians. They're humans just like us. So there's a lot being made about their feelings that if law enforcement officer are being called mean names and stuff, it's like, you just don't know the stress that they're dealing with. Yeah, they're being stressed with all sorts of ways to outlet that stress, whether it's in the gym, a punching bag, on the firing range, or if they turn, an urban playground into their firing range. So look, if you can't cut the mustard, if you can't take people calling you mean words and slurs and insults, then you need to find another profession, because they always tell black people, like, you guys need to word. It's just a word. Why do you care about the N word? It's just a word. So if people are antagonizing ICE and calling them pigs and saying abolish the ICE, those are just words, right? Why are you being so triggered? They usually call people snowflakes like that. Like, do your job. Stop being a victim. Personal responsibility, right? I'm just keeping the same energy and applying the same logic that they would do to me or anyone else. They're not above reproach. Is their job tough? Yes. Do they have the toughest job out there? Absolutely not. So let's just stop trying to pretend. I'm fearing for my life, even though I have backup that I can call, even though I have multiple guns, tasers, dogs, drones, tanks, but I fear for my life. Like, come on, bro. Give me a break.
Talked about the situation on the ground in their city. They've inflamed the public. They've encouraged the kind of destruction and violence that we've seen in Minneapolis the last several days, and I would encourage them to grow up, get some maturity, act like people who are responsible, who want people to be safe, and the right thing be done. When you use the kind of language that you use against law enforcement officers, they lose their credibility.
You've also been criticized for your comments. The shooting, we should know.
Okay, so what about the law enforcement officers when there's countless videos of law enforcement making very derogatory, racial, and racist epithets? Should they lose their credibility? Instead, they say, you guys are the woke mob, the woke mind virus. How is that woke to point out anti-Black bigotry or just vile racism within a law enforcement or any type of government systemic institution? I mean, what is woke about that? And what should happen to those people? Because we want to make the law enforcement victims if they're on the receiving end of insults and mean words and things like that. So what happens when they're doling it out? Oftentimes unprovoked, oftentimes, kind of being a little bit authoritarian, with their position in society. Who is checking them? Back to blue, no matter who. No, it's a lot of corrupt people that wear the badge, but back them no matter what. Sounds pretty idiotic.
They've extremely politicized and inappropriately talked about the situation on the ground in their city. They've inflamed the public. They've encouraged the kind of destruction and violence that we've seen in Minneapolis the last several days, and I would encourage them to grow up, get some maturity, act like people who are responsible, who want people to be safe, and the right thing be done. When you use the kind of language that you use against law enforcement officers, they lose their credibility.
You've also been criticized for your comments. The shooting, we should note, was Wednesday at 10:37 a.m. Eastern. Just over 2 hours later, the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement definitively asserting what had happened, defending the ICE agent, accusing Renee Good of domestic terrorism. That's a characterization that you reiterated in a press conference half an hour later. Now, Republican Senator Tom Tillis said, quote, "It was very unusual to have a senior law enforcement official to draw a conclusion about an event where the scene was still being processed. Generally speaking, law enforcement would recognize that a life was lost, that families are changed forever, the shooter's life will change forever. We're collecting video. We're trying to assess the situation." Why did you not wait for an investigation before making your comments?
Oh, well, everything that I've said has been proven to be factual and the truth. This administration wants to operate in transparency. I have the responsibility as the Secretary of Homeland Security to know this information as soon as possible. Had just been in Minneapolis the day before, had already had conversations with officers on the ground and supervisors, and knew the facts, and decided that the department and the people of this country deserve to know the truth of the situation of what had unfolded in Minneapolis.
But with all due respect, Secretary, the first thing you said was, quote, "What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow." Correct. Because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. That's not what happened. We all saw what happened.
It absolutely is what happened. Those officers had been out in enforcement action. A vehicle had been stuck. They had come to help get that vehicle out. That's when this individual started blocking traffic for minutes and minutes.
You said that the woman attacked them and surrounded them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle.
Blocked the road for a long time and was yelling at them and impeding a federal law enforcement investigation. And that's what you need to focus on, Jake, is they were breaking the law by impeding and obstructing a law enforcement operation. They were breaking the law already, and these officers were doing their due diligence and what their training had prepared them to do to make sure they were handling it appropriately.
You said within hours of her being killed, you said that she was a domestic terrorist. How do you define domestic terrorist?
She weaponized her vehicle to conduct an act of violence against a law enforcement officer and the public.
How can
as they are doing that,
how can you assert with certainty that she was trying to hurt the officer as opposed to she was trying to flee the scene.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground. This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her vehicle. She weaponized it, and he defended his life and those colleagues around him and the public.
The question is, I don't doubt. My position is, I wasn't there. I didn't see it.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. First, go to Riverside and open an account.
Some people say that it clearly showed that she was trying to hit him and did. Some people say, no, she was clearly trying to move her car and flee and get away. I don't know. What I'm saying is, how do you know? How can you assert for a fact within?
Yeah, it's all up for interpretation. Some are saying, okay, look, she turned her wheel, so that proves that she wasn't trying to hit him. And then others say, hey, he was grazed by the car. So because he was grazed, he feared for his life in imminent danger. And then there's experts saying our protocol is to get out of the way. If someone is weaponizing a vehicle, they keep saying how much the vehicle weighs. Oh, this is such a heavy vehicle. So why would you stay close to the vehicle, especially if you planned on using your firearm? You can use that from distance, right? But some experts are saying their protocol is to get out of the way. They had already had the license plate. They'll either pursue on a chase or catch them at a later date. So others are saying that, depending on where you're at, there's no duty for him to retreat, but it all is up for interpretation. Which expert, right? The Democrats have experts saying things in their favor, and the Republicans have experts saying things in their favor. Which expert do you believe?
And he defended his life and those colleagues around him and the public.
The question is, I don't doubt. My position is, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Some people say that it clearly showed that she was trying to hit him and did. Some people say, no, she was clearly trying to move her car and flee and get away. I don't know. What I'm saying is, how do you know? How can you assert for a fact within hours before any investigation, this is what happened?
The facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized and it attacked the law enforcement officer. He defended himself and he defended those individuals around him. That is the definition. When there is something that is weaponized to use against the public and law enforcement, that is an act of domestic terrorism. It happened in our shores. It happened here in our country. You don't get to change the facts just because you don't like them. We will continue to look at this individual and what her motivations were.
So it's wild because Kristi Noem will call this lady who, yes, she was being annoying. Yes, she was obstructing traffic. But to say she was a domestic terrorist, I believe that's a stretch. A tad bit far from me. Now, these people believe that the January 6th rioters, right? There are definitely rioters, whether you want to call them insurrectionists, I really don't care. They were definitely rioters, so that we could all agree upon. They made those people to seem like they were aggrieved, they were victimized. That they didn't consider domestic terrorism. They're breaking into the Capitol, destroying property, vandalizing property, making threats. There were death threats towards people like Mike Pence. There were bodily harm towards Nancy Pelosi. What if Nancy Pelosi came out with a shotgun and just started mowing people down? Because wasn't that a credible threat towards her life? That is what domestic terrorism looks like. But then they want to make it seem like two lesbian women in a car yelling, being annoying, somehow is domestic terrorism. Is it annoying? Yes. Could you look and find the ordinances in every letter to the law and say each law that they broke? Look at this penal code. Yeah, they broke the law. But to say they were domestic terrorists, that's gaslighting of the most disgusting form. Now, if she was keeping this same energy and saying, yes, Nicole Good was a terrorist and the people on January 6th, but to act like the people on January 6th were just some good old boys. Yeah, that's where you lose me with the hypocrisy. How could I take anything that you say serious? Because you're not impartial, you're not unbiased, so you're a political hack. And that's okay. We know where your bread is butter, but I just can't take the political shillery serious.
And get away? I don't know. What I'm saying is, how do you know? How can you assert for a fact within hours before any investigation?
And I would be remiss without giving a shout out to the hardest working mod on YouTube, Vibrant Low and Tay-Bay in building.
This is what happened.
The facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized and it attacked the law enforcement officer. He defended himself and he defended those individuals around him. That is the definition. When there is something that is weaponized to use against the public and law enforcement, that is an act of domestic terrorism. It happened in our shores. It happened here in our country. You don't get to change the facts just because you don't like them. We will continue to look at this individual and what her motivations were. We know that there was, throughout that morning, she had harassed and impeded law enforcement operations. That raises the suspicion level with all of these law enforcement officers as far as paying attention to what her capacity is.
Did it raise the suspicion level or just raise the annoyance level? So maybe because she was part of this anti-ICE group, so she was going to multiple locations, antagonizing them. So this could have been an issue where they were just annoyed. And as much as these protesters were flexing their privilege, the officers want to flex their privilege and their power in this situation as well, because there could have been de-escalation on both parts. I would say that the officers should have more of a responsibility to de-escalate. However, there's no law saying that there's a legal obligation to do so. That's just something that is wishful thinking, right? And since we're a Christian nation, right, you would think that morality would reign supreme, but unfortunately, mayhem and, murderous proclivities reign supreme, especially in this situation, unfortunately.
Domestic terrorism happened in our shores. It happened here in our country. You don't get to change the facts just because you don't like them. We will continue to look at this individual and what her motivations were. We know that there was, throughout that morning, she had harassed and impeded law enforcement operations. That raises the suspicion level with all of these law enforcement officers as far as paying attention to what her capacity is. And as you see on the videos, and they've proven out, that this law enforcement officer took the action that his training prepared him for, and he worked to make sure that he could save his own life and those around him.
How can you assert that there's no ambiguity in this before any investigation has taken place?
I had just been in Minneapolis and had been with those officers, had seen what they were facing on the streets every day, and had talked to their supervisors as soon as the incident happened and had gotten the facts and seen videos before I ever went to talk at that press conference. And the Trump administration and President Trump is the most transparent and open.
So if you scared go to church, what exactly are these ICE officers really facing every day? The videos that go viral is not happening every day. Just like this unfortunate tragedy, it's not happening every day. So when they're making it seem like the ICE people are being sent into Gaza or something, as if they're dealing with a bombardment from a genocidal Netanyahu or something like that. Like, what exactly are these ICE officers facing? If you're scared, go to church. They're going in. So imagine this. They'll always say, well, what about Chicago? What about Oakland, right? And people are supposed to walk the streets with Oakland, and especially with the Democrats, they want to strip you of all your firearms, walk this dangerous neighborhood, and you shouldn't be scared. You don't need firearms, right? We're supposed to walk through the most treacherous hoods, right, that they always talk about, with no firearms and not be scared. Meanwhile, ICE and all of these law enforcement, they got tanks, they got grenades, they got drones, robot dogs, they got real dogs, they got backups, sniper rifles, AKs, M16s, AR-15s. Like, how much stuff do you need until you're not feared? They have plate carriers and vests and helmets. How much more stuff do they need? You're supposed to just be walking and don't have no gun because we need gun control. Okay, so I'm supposed to walk through a notorious hood with no firepower, and I shouldn't fear for my life. And then if I do fear for my life and I have an illegal firearm to protect myself, yeah, we're going to lock him up for a long time. But meanwhile, like I said, ICE, they have all of this stuff and they're still scared. Maybe this isn't the profession for you. Go get a desk job.
Government that we've ever had. Give the public the information, give them what they need to know about a situation so they can have the truth as soon as possible.
So if this agents were perfectly fine, if everything he did was accurate, does that mean that other ICE agents should
He
look
wasn't
at what?
perfectly fine. He was injured. He went to the hospital.
No,
He
his
was
actions were
treated.
fine. I didn't
In
say.
fact, I think a lot of people and guests and even you yourself called this situation something very different and
So just weeks prior, this same officer was in an incident where he was nearly dragged to death by trying to detain what they say was an illegal immigrant. Who knows? But this is what they say. He was in pursuit of an illegal immigrant and he was drugged. They say up to 100. I don't know if they said 100 yards or 100 feet. Either way, this was several weeks ago. Why the hell is he still on the job? Sounds like he had PTSD. Not only that, he sounds like he had a quick, itchy trigger finger. He was annoyed. And maybe it was the PTSD. Maybe from him being drugged from that car, the woman turning her wheels, maybe he froze up and had a flashback of him driving and he was just, turned into the quickest, gunslinger in the West. Could that have been played a factor? Did he have a psyche valve? Was he cleared? Like, what was the results of this? I get it. This is like medical information. It's private. But when he's doing, kind of these public, fatalities, much of this stuff should come into question, should be scrutinized. It looks like we've been joined by Travion, an illustrious guest in the building.
truthful about what it was as far as
What did
this
I say that was
individual,
untruthful?
That this was not a correct definition of what was happening on the ground. That this
I said that your description, they were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with their vehicle is not what we see on the videotape, and it's not.
It absolutely is the facts of what happened on the ground that day. They were there pushing out a vehicle earlier. They had helped each other.
But that's not
do
what
that.
you said. That's not what you said. Yes, they were pushing out a vehicle.
Absolutely what I said. There's not one.
We all have seen the video. I don't need to relitigate it. We've all seen the video. She is blocking the street.
The reason we exist is because you cannot stay ahead of all threats. So what we do is we block.
They approach her.
You haven't seen the video of the entire morning and the previous encounters with this individual.
Oh, we have aired it. Yes, we have. On Thursday, we were airing and noting the fact that she was there for several minutes, for minutes and minutes and minutes. She was protesting without question.
And at previous locations that morning, that these vehicles had been previously down the block on video.
So is this part of that Project 2025 that they're implementing, Ronnie? Yeah, law enforcement officers are highly trained in de-escalation tactics. So this is the whole point. When they go and unalive someone and then they say, well, they just weren't trained enough. So, okay, if they weren't trained enough, did they get the job because of white DEI? A white affirmative action? How did they get the job? Are they hiring unqualified officers? Are these officers low IQ? Because how much training do these officers need? They've been getting training for year after year, decade after decade, and they still don't know how to de-escalate. And they just keep running back on, I feared for my life, even though I have this big M16 and I have a taser that can hit them from 100 yards. My K9 will sick them at my command. I'm shivering in my boots. I'm so scared. Go to church then. Become a librarian. Do something that's safe, right? This is ridiculous.
Video that you haven't seen. There's more information.
But the
that
question,
this
the question
individual
is
was
not.
impeding law enforcement operations throughout the previous moments and hours before
The question is, what was she doing when she was moving her car?
The question.
That's the question.
Is why are we arguing?
So he never. This person, Curtis, said it was almost a year ago. And it was also found that he never identified himself as an ICE agent during that encounter where he was dragged. And maybe he has a proclivity for trying to be Action Jackson, the last action hero. Maybe he's watched one too many Lethal Weapon movies or Bad Boys or John Wick or something, because this dude just keeps finding himself in the thick of things. Is this a coincidence, or is he just somewhat of a thrill-seeking, gun nut? If you drop the link later, I will give you a link so you can read it for yourself. Yeah, I'm debating it because I don't have as much time as I would like, but I do appreciate all the information. And y'all go subscribe to Ronnie Q so she can be breaking down some of this political nuance, unlike the mainstream or lamestream media. It was June 2025, roughly 6 months ago. Okay, got you. Yeah, I mean, they was talking like it was a few weeks ago. So thank you for adding that accurate context.
With a president who's working to keep people safe? Why are we arguing with law enforcement operations that have gone on in this country for years, and we're working to collect murderers and rapists and drug traffickers and fraudsters off the streets of Minnesota, and we don't have local law enforcement and local elected officials that are partnering with us to help do that work? Overwhelmingly, the people in this country said they wanted America to be safe again, that they didn't want dangerous criminals on our streets. I would encourage the elected leaders in that city and in that state to work with us so that we can do our operations without the kind of opposition.
So I get what she's saying, right? She's just kind of politisplaining right now. And of course, everyone wants safe streets and stuff, but them fatally taking this chick out who said, dude, I'm not mad at you, bro. Was she an annoying tree hugger? Yes, but come on, this chick was not a domestic terrorist. So here she's trying to frame this as we're just cleaning up the streets, one criminal at a time, one domestic terrorist at a time. And hey, this is what you people voted for. You voted to clean up the streets. People didn't vote for you guys to be fatally shooting soccer moms. They just didn't. And I will say, yes, she was breaking the law, right? That is a law. You know what I mean? It's not my law, right? I'm not nitpicking. It's not my law. You could take it up with the state, right? So she was breaking the law, but that law is a petty misdemeanor that she was breaking. It's not punishable by death. So this whole framing that they're cleaning up the streets, one domestic terrorist at a time, it is rather pathetic.
Years. And we're working to collect murderers and rapists and drug traffickers and fraudsters off the streets of Minnesota, and we don't have local law enforcement and local elected officials that are partnering with us to help do that work. Overwhelmingly, the people in this country said they wanted America to be safe again, that they didn't want dangerous criminals on our streets. I would encourage the elected leaders in that city and in that state to work with us so that we can do our operations without the kind of opposition and people that are conducting and perpetuating the kind of violent rhetoric that we're seeing today.
DHS policy authorizes use of deadly force only, quote, when no reasonably effective, safe, and feasible alternatives appears to exist.
Here she is again with more hypocrisy. You calling someone a domestic terrorist. That's some violent rhetoric. If you call someone a domestic terrorist and someone sees this person or they know this person is a neighbor, you're not supposed to do something. I mean, not just supposed to sit there, right? You have a civic duty to try to call. There's a lot of people out there that want to be some sort of rogue peace officer and, put on their Action Jackson hat. So when you call someone a domestic terrorist and they're spotting this person, there are some people that are going to take that literally and act on it. How was that not violent rhetoric? So here they go playing this. Oh, well, it was the left and it was the Democrats. It's like, and the Democrats do the same thing. They're calling the ICE Gestapo and Nazi and all this stuff because both parties are the same. It's just like the whole WWE. They're in the same federation, the same institution, different characters on different sides that it appears, but they're all just playing a role. Look at Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper is a seasoned journalist. He's letting her off the hook on so many of these questions. He's asking just enough to appear that he's giving a tough interview, but I mean, is this really tough? He's just letting her go on and on and on. He's seemingly fact checking her, but this is as mild as it gets. Now, if you say something about Israel, you'll see when his fangs really come out. But since he doesn't really care about this woman, yeah, he's making it seem like, oh, look, no, we care about humanity. But yeah, when it comes to Israel, you'll see the real Jake Tapper. You'll see exactly how he gets his money.
Could he not have just gotten out of the way?
That this individual and this officer is a highly experienced law enforcement officer. He has years of training and specialized training for these types of situations. We're grateful that he's alive. It's a tragic situation, and we're going to continue to.
So we got Mar Rojas. What's up, Mar Rojas? I can't see the picture, so I don't know what your pronouns is, he, she, they, but shout out to Mar Rojas who says, I'm with the ICE agent. Mar Rojas sounds like a Latino Hispanic name. So there's been this narrative where, oh my God, I can't believe Latinos, they voted for Trump and they support ICE. Yeah. I mean, close to half of the Border Patrol agents are Latinos. Close to half of the ICE agents are Latinos. So it's crazy because people will be asking FBAs to go out there. Why aren't you crashing out? Like, why would I crash out when this is what they always tell us? If the Democrats screw you guys over, hey, that's what you get. That's what you voted for. Y'all seen the videos. I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. Y'all seen the videos, right? Cool. This is what they voted for. And not only that, I'm in California, the belly of the beast. Not all Hispanics is just this one big monolith. Oh, we're one big global enchilada. No, it's not really like that. You know what I mean? Mexicans are not really getting along with El Salvadorians. El Salvadorians are just not the same as Venezuelans. Venezuelans are not just the same as Hondurans. Different ethnicities and nationalities have different political ideologies and interests. So when they say, oh, how could a Latino, it's like, I mean, what type of Latino? Was he Mexican? Was he Argentinian? Like who? And many people are just not for illegal immigration specifically because of how it's weaponized and, there's no positives, especially for my community. But yeah, when you say you're with the ICE agent, are you with this agent specifically, or do you just support ICE in general? Let me know something. Let's get back into it.
To work on the investigation into the individual and find out what the motivations were behind her actions that day.
We're grateful that he's alive too. I want to play this moment from the officer's cell phone video. This is number 7, folks.
Get out of the car. Fucking bitch.
Is that Agent Ross's voice calling Renee Good a fucking bitch?
I can't determine which one it is, but it could be, sir.
In June of last year.
Okay, so why did he even ask that question? He asked that question and then immediately moved on. Okay, that's a fair question if we know the relevance. Was that him calling her a fucking bitch? Okay, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, maybe it was him. If she said yeah, then what was going to be the follow-up question? Since she said she don't know, it could be is inconclusive, then you just move on. What was the point of that question? I'm just truly curious. I would love to know the relevance of that question. Like I said, Jake Tapper is a seasoned journalist, but it seems like he's just winging it here.
Fucking bitch.
Is that Agent Ross's voice calling Renee Good a fucking bitch?
I can't determine which one it is, but it could be, sir.
In June of last year, Agent Ross had his arm pinned in the back window of a car as an undocumented immigrant who was a criminal drove away from a traffic stop. It dragged him about 100 yards. Here's what Vice President Vance said about the incident this week.
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
So like JD Vance is, so maybe he's sensitive. So if he's sensitive, don't they have PTSD courses, classes? Seek help, seek therapy. We have to normalize that. Somebody cue that Jordan meme. Get help, right? Like, this is not to shame you, but yeah, bro, you've been through a lot. And if you weren't fit to be on duty and you were still suffering from PTSD, maybe this person would still be alive today if this guy wasn't so unhinged and unstable. It's possible.
Agent Ross had his arm pinned in the back window of a car as an undocumented immigrant who was a criminal drove away from a traffic stop. It dragged him about 100 yards. Here's what Vice President Vance said about the incident this week.
And look like we've been joined by a prestigious guest, Roger Meadows. I would have to concur. Jake Tapper, I called him a political stooge, but he is a seasoned propagandist, most definitely. And DGP says it looks like a wig to me, possibly. I mean, now that you're saying that, that could be her natural hair or implants. Who knows? I can't even tell what's real anymore, right? Because people that will have naturally full lips, now some people that have thin lips, their lips are thicker than some andouille sausages. So it's wow. Tapper clowned this crazy butch. Yeah, he did expose her. And like I said, he's a seasoned propagandist, like Roger Meadows says. And even in his mild, tepid pushback, he still exposed her because she is just how should I say this? A bird-brained bimbo? How about that?
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
If this is relevant, first of all, it's horrible that happened. If it's relevant, which the vice president seems to think it is, do you think this understandably very traumatic event that this officer went through last June might have influenced, as the vice president is suggesting happened, how he responded?
Now, there's no indication to that, but the facts is that we've seen vehicles weaponized over 100 times in the last several months against our law enforcement officers. So they definitely know that the threat is real, that individuals who are trained by activists to go out and to impede their law enforcement operations will weaponize their vehicles.
So, yes, I'm really going to talk about wigs because are you talking about me or somebody in the chat? Because I was responding to someone in the chat. I mean, what's wrong with someone talking about her wig? I mean, do you got a crush on Kristi or something? Shoot your shot. She might be single, shoot your shot.
And try to run them over and drag them and not stop. So they certainly go into these situations with that knowledge that could happen. And that's what their training prepares them.
And Curtis Biz says nobody gaslights better than Noem. It's scary that people buy her line of BS. Well, this is the thing, right? So she's a slightly or a decently attractive woman. So they put in every time you see her, she's always trying to be dolled up, right? She goes on these photo ops. She's not really doing anything, but she's just portraying power. She'll go with a bunch of border patrol. She's over here looking like the border Barbie, you know. She goes down and makes it look tough, but she's always dressed up, has the right amount of makeup, the right angle, always has some tight pants, right? So you get the perfect angle, you feel me, the booty cheeks and stuff. So it's like, this is all political theater. But like you said, people buy the BS. Unfortunately, society has been dumbed down, and all it takes is not even a beautiful face or not even a pretty face, just a decent or a medium cute face. And then, you know, people, unfortunately, many men, because this is like the age of incels and effeminate males, they just kind of take whatever she says, hook, line, and sinker. She's a bird-brained bimbo. Even if she was the hottest chick ever, she's not bright. You know, she's not the most effective tool in the box, right? Definitely not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But, I mean, it is what it is. Women portraying power bother you, dude? What power is she portraying? I mean, and you don't even have a real profile pic. Like, so does you put in a real picture of yourself? Does that bother you? No, I'm not like that. You should probably try talking to the conservatives, right? They're the ones who want the trad wives, right? They want them barefoot and pregnant. Go talk to the MAGA maniacs. Don't talk to me about that. And fix that profile pic. JD Vance, when Trump wanted you to be his VP, did you ever use your leverage to get help for the controlled burn and purposeful explosion that poisoned your constituents in East Palestine, Ohio? People were thinking about Gaza, right? No, there's an East Palestine, Ohio, where the people were poisoned, and they were like, no, you know what? Actually, you guys can drink the water, just like they told the people they can drink the Flint water. They wouldn't drink it, but they were telling other people to drink it. They did have to pay some people out. I don't think they gave them enough, but they did at least admit wrongdoing. But where was JD Vance at? You must strongly disagree. Google her original face. I'm not sure exactly what you're disagreeing with because I said a lot, but hey, you know, I welcome disagreements here. Oh, I think you're saying you strongly disagree maybe when I said that she is medium cute or decent cute. I'm not saying for me, I ain't trying to shoot my shot, but there are people in the chat and other people that will, you know, this will be the hottest chick that they've ever had. Like I said, we're in the age of incels and effeminate males. I don't like that abuse using good looks. Yeah, well, people do it all the time though. So they'll do it with a male, right? If they have they do it in movies, right? Part of the reason why they call movie magic, right? There's a lot of people that they're decent at acting. What's the girl from Transformers? What is her name? I think like Megan Fox or something. People would say, yeah, she's a fox. She's pretty fox. Is she great at acting? Nobody would say that, but you would still go see a movie because of how she looks, right? The Rock, I think The Rock has gotten better, but is The Rock really a great actor? But he's not on there to be a great actor. Now they're making movies with Bautista, who was a wrestler. But, you know, people may want to see him jacked up, his veins popping out, big muscles and things like that. So people will use the looks, you know, to advance a certain narrative. And it's from a marketing standpoint. And politics is marketing. That's why they have political ads. And, you know, if you can use some form of identity politics or some sort of vanity politics, never gets old. JD Vance out here worrying about defending ICE, but your Ohioans still suffering. Well, these people don't care. The whole MAGA maniacs that make America great again, they're not MAGA, they're MIGA, making Israel great again. That's all they care about. And of course, bending over for the donors and spreading cheeks. And of course, we got the 504 boy. Whoa, they New Orleans in the building. What's up, Braxton? Okay, so let me get back into the video.
What evidence are you looking at that so many other people around the country look at and they say, it looked to me, her tires were turned to the right, she was moving her car, and they see a woman trying to flee. You say she was trying to kill the officer. No investigation has happened. Why are you so certain that your interpretation is the truth?
Are you a Zionist? What's up, Richard Swisher? I gotta ask, are you a Zio? Richard Zio Swisher? The Bible says Israel will always be. Israel will always be what? Like, could you elaborate on that? And are you implying that the Bible was saying that the present state of Israel is what they're referring to? Did the Bible mention Bibi Netanyahu or Ben Gurion? I'm just asking, since the Bible says Israel will always be. Remember what Biden said? Biden said if there wasn't an Israel, we would create an Israel. Israel was created in 1948. That's relatively new. So tell me again, how old is the Bible? And if the Bible is that old, why did it take until 1948 for the U.S., Western powers, to create Israel? And answer me this, are DNA tests banned in Israel? Why are most of those Israelis have European ancestry? I'm just wondering. Fair questions to ask, right?
When an investigation hasn't even happened. Jake, I'm watching the videos.
Other
I'm
people are
talking
watching
to officers.
the videos
I'm getting
and
the
coming
facts.
to a different conclusion.
Everything that we've stated as the Department of Homeland Security and this administration has been factual. And I wish we would talk factually about what we see every day from these protesters, what they do, what they say, how they chant over and over, kill ICE, attack law enforcement, how they're trained to perpetuate violence against them and to stop the work that they do every day. Each of these law enforcement officers takes an oath to protect this country and uphold the law. They go out every day and enforce the laws of this country to keep people safe. So these individuals that are...
Okay, so that's what you signed up for. Like I said, my boy Geechee Gotti, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, man, we don't want to hear about you getting shot. That's what happened when you gangbang. It comes with the territory. So when ICE is like, we were getting threats and this was happening and that was happening, it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you in the field. Imagine a soldier out there saying, and the insurgents were doing this and that and that. It's like, yeah, bro, that's what you signed up to be. Now, if you can't cut it, then go home, find you a cushy job, maybe a remote work at home job, become a barista at Starbucks. There's other options for you. But once you sign up for that, imagine you sign up to play football and you like, they hit hard. And sometimes I might get a concussion, or what if I tear my ACL? Man, it's some really big boys out there. Like, they're fast, they're run. It's like, bro, you know what you signed up for. These agents know what they signed up for. They list all of this stuff. They signed on the dotted line and said, yep, I'm cool with all that. And then now you're whining and complaining about what you said you were cool with. They fear for their life. They're getting a threat, allegedly, from some anonymous faceless troll, and here they are clutching on an AR-15 with a grenade, an attack dog, and a robot dog, and a tank, clutching on pearls, saying, what am I gonna do? I fear for my life. But it's like, yeah, you keep collecting that handsome check. You went and got that sign-on bonus. You didn't fear for your life when you got the sign-on bonus. When you deposit in the check, you don't fear for your life. But suddenly, when you see a lily white person in a Honda Pilot with her lesbian girlfriend, then suddenly that's where you fear for your life. And these are the people that we think is like built to go to war. I mean, are you kidding me?
out there harassing them while they do that work, doxing their identities, threatening them and their families. It's unacceptable. And that's why President Trump is so strong in support.
They see a woman trying to flee. You say she was trying to kill the officer. No investigation has happened. Why are you so certain that your interpretation is the truth when an investigation hasn't even happened?
Jake, I'm watching the videos.
Other
I'm
people are
talking
watching
to officers.
the videos
I'm getting
and
the
coming
facts.
to a different conclusion.
Everything that we've stated as the Department of Homeland Security and this administration has been factual. And I wish we would talk factually about what we see every day from these protesters, what they do, what they say, how they chant over and over, kill ICE, attack law enforcement, how they're trained to perpetuate violence against them and to stop the work that they do every day. Each of these law enforcement officers takes an oath to protect this country and uphold the law. They go out every day and enforce the laws of this country to keep people safe. So these individuals that are out there harassing them while they do that work, doxing their identities, threatening them and their families, it's unacceptable. And that's why President Trump is so strong in supporting their operations in all of these cities.
The officer.
Yeah, I believe he is Polish, and I think he's from Philadelphia as well. So, yeah, it's a lot of people that are saying Israel is the holy land and their motherland. It's just they happen to be from, the United States and other parts of Europe, right? Okay.
Appeared to have fired 3 shots. The first one through the front windshield, the second and third through the side window. What is the justification for the second and third, given that the officer was out of harm's way?
You're watching the same videos that I am, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're watching the same ones. So you see how quickly the situation unfolded, how the officer was in front of the vehicle when she sped off, how she ran into him, and how he had to take quick action based on his training to defend himself and his.
Well, unfortunately, it kind of is turning into that, not because of the players, because of the refs. So now I have a newfound appreciation for old school players, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Reggie White. I'm just throwing some names off the top, Lawrence Taylor, because back then they didn't even give a flip. And not only that, they were pushing very racist, scientific, pseudo babble to say, hey, you guys have this tiny Negro brain, so we don't really want to compensate you fully for the allegations of CTE because, you guys are tiny Negro brains, man. We can't fully prove that football damaged your brain. You're a Negro. Your brain is just deteriorating. Your brain is just that. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Scientific racism, but specifically look up the NFL. The NFL were making arguments against the black players for why they didn't want to pay them out. They did an apology and stuff after, of course, it went viral. So, it's a lot, but ultimately the whole point I was making is that when you sign up for football, you're signing up for these gargantuan sized people to be running at you full speed, faster than you ever seen, and hit harder than you've ever been hit hard. And like DGP is saying, you can't be whining, they hit me. Like, what did you think was going to happen on a football field? You go out there as an ICE agent, they're throwing things at you, they're making insults. That shouldn't be happening to you, but that's what you signed up for. Like, what did you think, that they were going to be throwing roses at your feet and groveling? Like, give me a break.
Colleagues around
once he's out of harm's way.
That's very clear and factual from the videos that you can see. It's nobody's interpretation. We don't get to change it because we can see it with our eyes and we can build on the evidence that we have on the ground.
Yeah, the question
we don't
is
because the
why
politics doesn't fit somebody and what they're trying to do to continue to defraud people in their city and in their state, continue to take advantage of individuals and to allow criminals.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what Mayor Fry and
I said something similar. Richard said, looks like she was trying to get out of there and he used his force just to show his seniority. Yes, because this specific couple had a history of antagonizing and, kind of provoking ICE agents. So I think that due to some of the past PTSD that he suffered with, him being annoyed, not only that, her wife was egging the agent on. So I think as much as she was exercising some level of privilege, excuse me, to be able to obstruct justice, and she didn't think anything was going to happen from it. When they came up aggressive, hey, get the fuck out of the car, and they start reaching for her car. Her wife tells her, drive, baby, drive. I think that she thought that the privilege would reign supreme and she would be allowed to just skirt responsibility in that specific moment and drive away. Maybe face responsibility at a later time and date. But in that moment, yeah, my privilege is going to get me out of here. I think he also exercised his privilege and his power as an authoritative figure and said, hey, look, I have the privilege to do this because it's up for interpretation that I fear for my life. Even though based on some protocols, depending on who you listen to, he was supposed to get out of the way. He was supposed to evade the vehicle more so than kind of try to stand like Superman and, but it is what it is. Oh, and I said the same thing. He thought he's Superman. Then Rambo. Yeah, bro. It looks like he thought he was Superman and John Wick at the same time. Superman Wick. Like, bruh, you could have de-escalated this. What is all this training? Remember they were saying, you can't say defund the police. So then Biden, right? Biden came and said, we don't want to defund the police. We want to refund the police. Okay, so you gave the police more money. So they have more money, more militarized weaponry. They got more training, but yet they're still failing. They're getting more training, more money than they've ever gotten, but they're still just getting things wrong. Is this a level of low IQ? Who raised this ICE officer? Was he raised in a broken home? Was he raised with a single mom? Fair questions to ask.
That's what Governor Walz are doing every day that's very clear and factual from the videos that you can see. It's nobody's interpretation. We don't get to change it because we can see it with our eyes and we can build on the evidence that we have on the ground.
Yeah, the question
we don't
is
because the
why
politics doesn't fit somebody and what they're trying to do to continue to defraud people in their city and in their state, continue to take advantage of individuals and to allow criminals.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what Mayor Fry and that's what Governor Walz are doing every day by diverting the attention and trying to attack a law enforcement officer.
All right, you got to stop buying generic Viagra if y'all over 40. You can get 9 pills of 100 milligram generic Viagra for just...
They're allowing the criminals to go buy.
Damn it, now they're using AI to push Viagra too? Yikes.
Without examination.
Are you saying that the second and third shots, because you just said it happened very quickly, are you saying the second and third shots?
I said watch the videos.
I'm
watch
asking.
how quickly this unfolded and know that law enforcement officers every day in this country are in difficult situations where they have to make split-second decisions to protect themselves, the public, and their colleagues, and that they have to rely on their training. That's exactly what this officer did.
Now, Gerard, do you really believe this or are you just trolling? The lady shouldn't have tried to delete that guy. Do you truly believe this? That's what she was trying to do? Do you believe that this guy feared for his life, that there was an imminent threat? It's hard to have a conversation. I think it's hard to have a conversation with ignorant people. I can have a conversation with anyone as long as they are not ignorant and as long as they are not dishonest and disingenuous, then I can have a conversation with you. We don't necessarily have to agree, but when we're talking about facts, there's nothing to disagree with. You can be emotional, but that doesn't make it any less factual when facts are being presented.
And I know that the left and I know the crazy activists in this country that are trying to undermine our way of life will attack and try to destroy a law enforcement officer.
I'm asking a question.
It's just unacceptable, and we're not going to let that happen.
I'm asking a question is, when he's out of harm's way, what is the reason for the second and third shot through the window when he is out? He's not in the line of sight of the car.
This investigation will continue to unfold and more information will come forward. But until that comes, what I would appreciate is everybody sticking to the facts of the situation and recognize that this law enforcement officer took action based on his training to protect.
Yeah, typically this is annoying to hear. Both sides were wrong, but in this situation, I would have to concur. There should have been de-escalation on both sides. this guy is being trained to have de-escalatory tactics. And not only that, this woman, even though she seemed very meek and, hey, I'm not mad at you, bro, but her wife was unfortunately being a provocateur. So I think there could have just been some de-escalation on all sides. I would say that most of the onus should be on the law enforcement officer. He should have become a peacekeeper. And this is why some people say, hey, defund the police and have more social worker, peacekeeper types, so that these situations, people don't end with a fatality. But yes, I do concur. There should have been a lot more de-escalation. I saw Centers the other night. Now give me my black card back. You're illegally detaining my ID. And just in case y'all don't know, Roger had his black card revoked. He hadn't seen one of the iconic shows, The Wire. There have been some other shows I don't know off the top, but there were some questionable ones that my jaw dropped. So his black card had been revoked, but don't worry, I kept it nice and safe for you. He's seen Centers, so we can potentially get that black card back. You're not in the clear yet, but potentially we could work something out. Why would anyone, let alone an officer of the law, step in front of a moving vehicle? Well, unless he thought he was kind of bulletproof, or he thought he was Thing from Fantastic Four, possibly Incredible Hulk, maybe Superman. I don't know why he would do that. Like I said, based on some of the experts that I've heard, they say that the protocol is to get out of the way, because you can chase that vehicle, and with all of the cameras everywhere on every street corner, they could easily get the license plate and they can go pursue that suspect at a later time. So I don't know if he was just feeling he was in his Rambo bag and he just wanted to be, you know, the last action hero. I'm not sure what really happened. He said it's definitely not a George Floyd situation. Well, try telling that to the Democrats, because they keep invoking George Floyd. And it's like, just let the man rest. We already got the woke, wacky, weird, whiny right. They're always, anytime they chant, BLM, George Floyd, woke mind virus, DEI, like any chance they get, they bring up George Floyd. Literally, they bring up George Floyd more than Peter Thiel. They hate George Soros. They'll say George Soros funded BLM. And instead of being mad at George Soros, they're mad at George Floyd. Does this make any sense to you?
Protect himself and the public.
I'm just waiting.
That's exactly what this officer did. And I know that the left, and I know the crazy activists in this country that are trying to undermine our way of life will attack and try to destroy a law enforcement officer.
I'm asking a question.
It's just unacceptable, and we're not going to let that
I'm asking a question is, when he's out of harm's way, what is the reason for the second and third shot through the window when he is out? He's not in the line of sight of the car.
This investigation will continue to unfold and more information will come forward. But until that comes, what I would appreciate is everybody sticking to the facts of the situation and recognize that this law enforcement officer took action based on his training to protect himself and the public.
I'm just waiting for the investigation to come through. I'm wondering if you're not doing a disservice to the officer by reaching a conclusion before the investigation takes place.
I haven't heard you say once what a disservice it's done for Mayor Fry to get up and to tell ICE to get the F out of his city, and AOC to stand up before she had any of the facts and call this officer a murderer. For individuals, well, call them out, Jake. Spend as much time calling them out. Okay. I have provided you with facts and information to back up every single word that we have said.
Yeah, this is that bird brain Barbie bimbo politics, or that bird brain Barbie bimbo babble.
And every single part of this investigation. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But we're going to continue to do the right thing to keep the American people safe.
I know that you'd like to make me the topic of this and not what happened, but.
So once again, she said, we're going to continue to do the right thing, but who gets to determine who did the right thing? Some experts saying the right thing was for him to get out the way and then chase her later because they already had her information. And then others are saying the right thing was for him to put some hot lead in her head. So who gets to determine what the right thing is? You know what they say. You may have seen it on a bumper sticker. What would Jesus do? Isn't this a Christian nation, right? So what would Jesus have done? If Jesus was in that situation, would he have unloaded a clip? I'm just saying.
I did ask a Democratic senator just a few minutes ago about AOC's comments, and I don't actually even know what you're talking about when I ask questions as if like that's an assertion. It's a question. How can you make a conclusion before an investigation? And there really isn't an answer other than you saw the video. I want to ask a question about the rules of how law enforcement is allowed to engage when feeling threatened, per your assertions. Because I want to show some video to you right now and ask, what is the appropriate response for the police officers in this situation? Those are law enforcement officers being physically attacked. By this standard, would any of those officers be justified in shooting and killing the people causing them physical harm?
So this was a good question. Jake Tapper has been tap dancing this whole interview, but this is a good question. He showed a video of the rioting ruffians on January 6th. They were just a bunch of unruly miscreants, these thuggish imbeciles going in, storming the Capitol. Some would call it an insurrection. I think a very brutal riot is enough, right? Jake Tapper plays the video and said, hey, by this logic, would it have been okay for those Capitol officers to start putting some hot lead in people's head, start dome tapping people? Would that have been okay? Y'all know my acronym CESL, S-E-S-L. Same energy, same logic. Keep the same energy, apply the same logic. Keeping that same energy, applying that same logic, then nobody should be tripping about what happened to Ashley Babbitt. And speaking of Ashley Babbitt, did you know that she got paid her family reparations? So she broke the law with storming the Capitol. The black officer told them, hey, don't come in here. He feared for his life. He pumped her full of lead and people were coming at him. So they always talk about back to blue no matter who, but they didn't back that brother. He was doing his job. He was trying to secure the Capitol. And once he pumped her full of lead, suddenly he became the villain and she became the victim. But what do they always say to us? Why didn't you just comply? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Ashley Babbitt got the stupidest of all prizes. And guess what Trump came in and did? Reparations, right? No one was saying, hey, Ashley Babbitt got a fatality. You didn't die. Why should you get in anything, right? Because that's how it goes. If the person that was owed is not here, it goes on to their family members or heirs. But Ashley Babbitt broke the law and somehow her family got hundreds of thousands of dollars in reparations because she made an idiotic move to try to break into the Capitol. By this logic, they should have started unloading on all of those rioters. I mean, wasn't that a scary situation? A bunch of violent ruffians coming in. That was a mob. People were coming in there in Viking helmets. People were urinating and defecating everywhere. This sounds like an extremely scary sight. And since I fear for my life and I think that my life is in imminent danger, I'm going to unload the clip and let them have it. That would have been justified. But then if that would have happened, they would have started saying, white people are under attack, white genocide, etc. It's like, make up your mind. Are we a nation of laws or not?
Every single situation is going to rely on the situation those officers are on. That they know that when people are putting hands on them, when they are using weapons against them, when they are physically harming them, that they have the authority to arrest those individuals.
The president pardoned every single one of those people.
and make sure that they're getting justice for their actions going forward.
President Trump pardoned every single one of those people.
And every single one of these investigations comes in the full context of the situation on the ground. And that's one thing that President Trump has been so focused on, is making sure that when we're out there, we don't pick and choose which situations are and which laws are enforced and which ones aren't. Every single one of them is being enforced under the Trump administration. And the clarity of the law stands. And if people don't like it, these members of Congress and elected officials should go change the law and make sure they have that debate and policy change.
I just showed you video of people attacking law enforcement officers. Undisputed proof, undisputed evidence. And I just said President Trump pardoned all of them. And you said that President Trump is enforcing all the laws equally. It's just not true. There's a different standard for law enforcement officials being attacked if they're being attacked by Trump supporters. We just saw that.
This individual and these instances and these investigations all have to be taken and done correctly in context of every situation that is happening on the ground. So what we are doing today as the Department of Homeland Security is out there with our law enforcement officers, making sure that we're targeting the worst of the worst and that we're talking factually about each situation and making sure that we're bringing those perpetuators of violence back to justice, bringing them to justice and making sure they face consequences for their crimes. We'd love to have the partnership of Mayor Fry. We'd love to have the partnership of the Chief of Police and of Governor Walz every day when we're out there to make sure they tone down the rhetoric and they do the right thing for the people of Minnesota.
Okay, so that's the end of the Barbie Bird Brain Bimbo Babble, and we are going to transition right into the next story. And then this is going to be the final story, and we're going to shut her down. And I appreciate all of y'all that's viewing this concurrently and the people that will be watching this on the replay, gang. Y'all can be anywhere in the world. Y'all chose to be here with me, at least momentarily. And for that, I thank you. I've been joined by a prestigious guest, none other than Big Rig Slaps in the building. And looks like we got a new one here, Kathleen Miller. She's gonna have to leave America when Trump's administration is gone. Shout out to Kathleen Miller. Looks like you knew over here. What it do, Kathleen? Is she gonna have to leave? I don't know, because there's a lot of havens, and you have been seeing like the Nick Fuentes and all of the Groyper types where they're trying to build these white-only enclaves. So I'm like, they already have white-only neighborhoods. Have you heard of redlining? But anyways, they want these all-white communities and stuff. So maybe Kristi Noem could go over there and be the queen somewhere over there. I mean, she was the governor of South Dakota. What the hell is in South Dakota? But so let's get right into this video. So this next video is from a content creator. She goes by the name of The Love Jones Show is the name of her channel. And the video I'm reacting to is going to be some emotional, effeminate, melanated dude crashing out on FBAs, foundational Black American freedmen, whining, wanting us to crash out for ICE, and calling us lazy for not being on the front line. And we're going to see what, and there was another, a white guy, and he says, he has some very interesting words to say. So let's get right into this video.
Love Jones Show.
You need to be ready. There is no come there, let's meet there. And all of you need to be arming yourselves in one way or another, whether that's physically or mentally. You need to be ready. There is no talking to evil. There's no having conversations and figuring out things with evil people. And I know you guys don't want to think about fellow people as evil. But guys, villains have always existed, and they always will, unless we do something about them. And we all know that words will do nothing. Peaceful protest at this point should just be left to Black Americans who can sit on their couches while we are in the streets fucking things up like we should be. Because the buck stops here. I don't care if I'm the only fucking one. I'm going to do something about this myself because I have the means, and it was gifted to me at birth. Because that's how this administration works. That's how this country works. I will be looked at with more compassion. I will be on the front lines while they're trying to talk this through with me because they think that we have some sort of kinship because we're white.
Peyton gets it. Shouts out to Peyton. His name is Peyton Vanis.
Okay, shout out to Peyton Vanis. I usually don't do invites to the cookout. My boy Stan says no, all cookout invites have been revoked, suspended indefinitely. But Peyton, hey, sometimes you gotta let the vanilla brother cook. He was saying, look, everybody should be crashing out. Everybody except Black Americans, because we've been on the front line for any and everyone, being everyone's societal political doormat. And at the end of thing, everybody is getting a slice of the pie and we get a crumb. And then it turns around and say, hey, well, you wasn't getting nothing before, so you should be happy with the crumbs. I mean, look at the people in Africa. They got flies and they got this and this and that. So you should be happy with the crumbs. It turns into all that type of stuff. So we get the dog sicked on us, all of the mass incarceration. We go fight for everyone's cause. And then they say, you know what? Even though we were brutalizing Black people, right? When they were saying no niggers allowed, right? No Blacks allowed. They weren't saying no minorities and no people of color. And then when they were saying minorities and things, they were talking about us. So we're just tired of being the doormat for everybody else. This is the season. 'Tis the season to hold your own nuts. They always say that, look, we're at the bottom of everything, of everything bad. We're at the top of it, right? And everything good, we're at the bottom of it, right? So in order for us to change that, we need to focus on ourselves. I always give the analogy. If your neighbor's house is dirty, and your house is dirty, you're not going to get your house clean by every day you keep going and helping each neighbor clean up their house. What's going to happen is all the neighbors' houses will be clean, and then they'll come over to your house for dinner and they'll say, damn, bro, what happened? Why is your house so messy? And if you say, oh, well, it's messy because I was helping all y'all clean your house, they going to turn around and say, stop begging, stop being lazy, stop making excuses. Hey, I didn't tell you to help me. So fine, if everyone is going to be in their own segregated enclaves anyway, if every ethnic group is just fighting for their own sovereignty and preservation anyways, then let's just stop pretending that there's just this racial utopia and kumbaya. Right? If it's going to be separate but equal, then let it be that. So people will try to say, hey, well, that's bigoted. That's what the racists and the Nazis want. No, that's what you want. You just want to try to dress it up in a nice package and stuff. A bunch of those people, the NIMBYs, the not in my backyards, a lot of those people are the Democrat types, the Amy Klobuchars, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Kamala Harris and stuff. They want you to make it seem like, oh no, that's just Mitch McConnell or that's just Scott Jennings. It's like you guys all feel the same. None of you guys like me. None of you guys support my community, and you definitely don't support the working class. So yeah, but let me rewind that a little bit back. So yeah, it's up for all the other groups, especially with ICE. We're not immigrants. So the people who should be on the front line for immigrant rights should be immigrants. We've already fought to get the immigration quotas turned, and then they just imported a bunch of tethers and a bunch of anti-Black people. So now we're like, you know what? Fine. If y'all gonna open the borders, do what you do. We're not fighting to have the borders opened up and have our neighborhoods flooded so much that it changes the demographics of a neighborhood. We're supposed to be okay with that, but no other group is okay with that. Look at Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard has more than the resources. The Obamas and all these people, no one's illegal on stolen land. And they're pushing all of this open borders policy. And they're like, okay, fine. Y'all want open borders? Dropped a bunch of immigrants there. They had more than enough space, and they gave them some bottled water and sent them packing. They gave them a pat on the back, a swift kick on the behind, and a bottled water. And I don't even think it was Dasani. It wasn't Fiji. Was it Arrowhead? Who knows? They told them to get the flip out of here. But hey, we love you. Okay. Let's see what Peyton has to say. One more again.
Physically or mentally, you need to be ready. There is no talking to evil. There's no having conversations and figuring out things with evil people. And I know you guys don't want to think about fellow people as evil. But guys, villains have always existed and they always will unless we do something about them. And we all know that words will do nothing. Peaceful protest at this point should just be left to Black Americans who can sit on their couches while we are in the streets fucking things up like we should be. Because the buck stops here. I don't care if I'm the only fucking one. I'm going to do something about this myself because I have the means and it was gifted to me at birth.
And I do like what he said. I don't care if I'm the only one, because sometimes when people want to get active, they're waiting for somebody else to do it. That's why they say be the change that you want to see. So some people will, I'll give an analogy. People will walk in the neighborhood. Man, all people do is throw trash in the neighborhood and nobody ever picks up trash. All they got to do is pick up one piece of trash. It's like, did you pick up any trash? Well, no. Well, then if everyone has your mentality, the trash is never going to get picked up. You should be the one out there leading by example, and then maybe some other people will see you, you know. But if you haven't even done it, why are you expecting people to do what you're unwilling to do? And Peyton says, hey, look, I don't care if I'm the only one out there. I'm going to be stepping and standing on business because I got to stand for something. You know what I mean? If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. So at least, hey, I don't know if this is just for the gram or the talk, but at least Peyton, at least rhetorically, is standing on business.
Up like we should be because the buck stops here. I don't care if I'm the only fucking one. I'm going to do something about this myself because I have the means and it was gifted to me at birth. Because that's how this administration works. That's how this country works. I will be looked at with more compassion. I will be on the front lines while they're trying to talk this through with me because they think that we have some sort of kinship because we're white.
Peyton gets it. Shouts out to Peyton. His name is Peyton Vanest. Vanest. He gets it. He's literally doing a call to action for his fellow YT Americans saying, hey, meet me in DC this day, this time, come prepared. Black Americans, the only one that needs to be peacefully protesting at home from their couch because he knows that his skin color is a form of protection. So for everybody else to be telling us to get out there and fight against ICE for whatever reason.
And shout out to Red Six. And let me clarify, I'm definitely not impressed, right? I know some people, they get to clapping, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. No, this ain't that. This ain't that. However, you know, I will give credit when credit is due. And that's why I said rhetorically, right? So sometimes people will do things rhetorically and symbolically, but they won't do things as tangibly. So I need the total package. I need the rhetoric and I need the tangible as well. And the symbolic stuff, you know, I can do without it, but like that's optional. But the rhetoric has to be backed with the actions. The actions are what the tangibles are. So yes, I'm not definitely not impressed. However, I won't nitpick and not give credit when it's due. But salute to Red Six in the building.
Illegal immigration, knowing damn well that they would love for us to be out there to use us for target practice is diabolical, especially when we have been at the forefront, our ancestors, our lineage, and us, because we've been protesting too, present, like in modern times, we've been at the forefront of every situation when it comes to injustice, especially as it pertains to law enforcement. So when, like, they do need to show up. I've been saying this from the beginning. Like, we don't need to, they need to show up. They need to get as mad as they did on January 6th. Period. Because I don't think that any of us needs to be risking our lives to go out there at this time. Now, if ever comes a point when we need to, then we will put boots to the ground.
So the main people who should be out there right now is the Somalis. The Somalis should be out there in full force. And not only that, since they make it seem like only Latino immigrants is being deported when the majority of them are African and Caribbean. So they only let about when Biden opened the border, they only let like 6% of African and Caribbean immigrants in combined 6%. At least like 80% of them were Latino immigrants, right? From various countries, Mexico, Honduras, Venezuela, and all this stuff, right? And of the 6% of the African and Caribbeans, they were being deported at a 30% higher rate. But still, they're making everything about the Latino. I can't believe the Latinos would join ICE. Okay, so it's okay for blacks, Asians, and whites to join ICE, but not Latinos. And all this is just a pandering. It's just because both parties are looking for a new constituency because there's no race called Latino and there's no race called Hispanic. It's just an ethnic identifier. Most of the Latinos, up until recently, they've always been classified and self-identified as white, not just been legally classified. They've self-identified as white. There's the whole sense of blanqueamiento, mejoró la raza, whitening the race, advancing the race, and all of this stuff. So there's only now, because Hispanic is a relatively new term. Comes up in the 70s, where up until then, all Hispanic people were classified as white. Even until recently, now many of them, they will say that they're Hispanic or they're, like mixed race or something like that. But yet there's still no race called Hispanic. So they're just given an ethnic identifier. And so this is why people try to say, hey, well, why are you making things about race? And then you say, okay, forget about race. We're just going to deal with our ethnic heritage. And then they keep turning around and try to make things about race. And they'll say, he's black like you. It's like, no, that person's Jamaican. He's from Senegal, Like, why are you trying to make it about race? We stopped doing race, right? We're doing ethnicity, nationality, and things. So then people try to go back and forth like that, and try to act as if Hispanic is some sort of race. Sammy Sosa is Hispanic. Is he the same race as AOC? Right? I mean, what are we really talking about here?
You know how we've been doing it for centuries. But to see other black people, other black Americans in particular, calling us lazy, denigrating us, talking down on us because we as a collective are saying, hey, we're not going to go out there. This is not our fight. It's utterly diabolical. Spread love is the Brooklyn way. Shouts out to Peyton Bannis because he know what's going on.
And this is not only diabolical, it's sinister and insidious to tell people who have been the descendants of slaves, the descendants of the freedom fighters and the civil rights, to say that you're lazy. And I say, hey, it's fine. Like, right, I'm with all the slurs. Not that I want this, right? I don't want this type of language to be permeated in society, but you don't always get what you want. So I have to deal with things as they are, not how I wish them to be. So, hey, keep stereotyping us and we gonna do the same to you. Keep calling us slurs and we gonna do the same to you. Keep ignoring us and we gonna ignore you. That's just how it goes. When we going through hey, stop begging. Why you always complaining, man? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know what? That is exactly what we need to do. We need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and hold our own nuts. And that's what you need to do. And then it turns into, you're being xenophobic and you don't know who you are and where you're from. No, I know exactly who I am, where I'm from, and I know exactly what I'm doing. I ain't helping you, not because I hate you. It's just I got bigger fish to fry. You said my group is at the bottom. I need to focus on how to get my group out at the bottom. Y'all was saying y'all group is better than us. You got superior culture, so you'll be all right. You gonna bounce back. Y'all saying my culture is degenerate, so I need to clean that up. Y'all saying we at the bottom, so I need to clean that up. Right? Sounds like y'all doing much better than us. So why the hell will we be helping y'all? It's like somebody has a bullet wound and then it's like, hey, help someone with the paper cut over there. This dude has a bullet wound. How about we tend to the bullet wound first rather than the paper cut.
He gets it. So you all see how that white guy, Peyton, he basically was like, Black people need to sit home. People get it. They understand what we mean when we say this isn't our fight. It is not saying that we're against immigrants, but illegal immigration, how does that benefit us? Why should we risk our lives?
It doesn't benefit us, and actually it hurts us. And so if we talk about reparations, people say that's not our fight. I mean, even so, shout out to my girl Sabby Sabs, right? When she does segments about reparations, they get the lowest views because she has a really diverse audience, but a lot of them are on some kind of all lives matter. And, we've all been through the same stuff, even though they haven't. So when you talk about reparations, they want to try to like tether onto it and turn it into some all lives matter. So those type of videos don't get as much views as they could. But if you're talking about Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and Israel, things that won't change the status quo here, those numbers go up. I get it. It's fun to hear, let's dunk on Israel. Here, let's call out the Zionists and all this stuff. But that's really not like a kitchen table issue. Like you're trying to make it into one, but it's not, you know what I mean? When people are saying, and then when there is things with Israel, you got to take that out with your local politicians. But people are not doing that. So a lot of people are looking for these sensational stories. But when it comes to anything that will rectify our situation, people don't have time for it. It's not just only reparations, right? Anti-Black hate crime bill or any tangible policy that's going to be specific to us. Just like when the immigrants come over here, they have refugee programs, asylum programs. In California, they were doing housing programs, but you had to be an immigrant. There was a place in Maine that were giving immigrants 2-year free house, So there's a lot of things that are earmarked specifically for immigrants. And then they try to play, hey, it's not race-based, it's for immigrants. So any immigrant could apply for it. But even within then, there's a hierarchy in there. The lighter, whiter immigrants get first dibs. And then some of the other melanated immigrants get dibs. And then they get put in a Black neighborhood to say, hey, look at the model minorities. Hey, if they could do it, why can't you? I was like, how about you give me that loan that you gave them? And then let's see. Don't deny me the loan. Give them a loan and say, hey, why can't you do what they did? Why can't they do what they did in a white neighborhood? Oh, you wouldn't let them. Actually, since they're so smart and their culture is so superior, why can't they do what they did in their homeland? Right? You're in your homeland with people who allegedly work harder with an allegedly superior culture. So why did you have to come to my homeland to get it popping? It's just a fair question to ask.
For illegal immigration, when it should get it, they understand what we mean when we say this isn't our fight. It is not saying that we're against immigrants, but illegal immigration, how does that benefit us? Why should we risk our lives for illegal immigration when it should be immigrants out there? It should be immigrants.
And shout out to my Florida family, Sunlight from the Sunshine State in the building. And Sunlight, I know you recognize it too. Like I'm looking at Sabby videos, they like 100K, 50K, 80K. She talk about reparations for foundational Black American freedmen, 8K. 10K. You see what I'm saying? But then these same people will say, we need to build coalition. A coalition for what? A coalition that you gonna say you don't support? All they support is all lives matter type stuff. I support universal policies, but I also support specific policies. You can't target a group specifically. And then when it's time to rectify, say, hey, look, we can't give y'all nothing because that would be discrimination. Yeah, you've been discriminating for decades. So you have to give something to the group that was targeted for the discrimination. They understand this with every other group. They were even doing it with the ICE agents. They're saying, hey, some immigrants have been scared because of ICE, so we're going to give you money, right? They're not saying pull themselves up by their bootstrap. They're not offering them education or any of that stuff. You know why? Because they've already given it to them. Education, daycare, especially if you wanted these blue states. Don't take my word for it. Use whatever Google engine, Bing, Yahoo, and just type in what programs are available now and in the past for asylum seekers, refugees, etc. You'll see a litany of programs where they're doling out money. They're not giving them thoughts and prayers. They're not talking about education because they're going to give them money and then they're going to do another thing to give them education, free health care for a lot of them. So I'm just saying, like, but when we ask for something specific for us, then it's like, no, stop begging the government. But as soon as immigrants come over here, the first thing they do is beg the government. Elon Musk is an immigrant. He's always begging the government. Most of his company is fueled by billions of dollars in subsidies, close to 40 billion plus in subsidies. Is that pulling yourself up by your bootstrap? Forget a billion. I'm sure if I gave many of y'all in the chat 5,000, y'all can make something shake with that. So of course you could do that with 500,000 or 5 million. He's getting billions of dollars from our taxpayer dollars. And then he's giving this rhetoric of pull yourself up by your bootstrap. And you Americans don't work hard, so I have to hire H-1Bs. Elon Musk is pushing close the border, but he wants to close the border so he can fly in H-1Bs. So they're flying over the border. And many people are listening to this bozo. He doesn't give a flying flip about you. And, you know, so I get it. Y'all don't care about our issues. So why should I care about yours? It's a harsh position to take. But, you know, harshness needs to be met with more harshness, unfortunately, right? I can't meet and greet harshness with, you know, with hugs and lollipops.
Legal and illegal immigrants, and it should be white folks. But listen to this black raccoon. Listen to what he had to say. Can't make this up.
You come in my comment section talking about some go back to your country. We don't need you here. We don't want you here. You motherfuckers think you know everything. You motherfuckers hate. Shut the fuck up. And even if I was an immigrant, I support the immigrant. If I went out there and protested for just immigration, even if
What you mean, even if you was an immigrant, bro? You do have an accent, and there's nothing wrong with being an immigrant. Some of my closest friends are immigrants. Like, your lineage is your lineage. I do hear a slight accent. I can't fully pinpoint it, but bro does have like a kind of Caribbean accent going on. Then he has that do-rag, so he's hiding the hairline. So, I don't know, a suspected tether. Let's just call it that. But let's see what he has to say when he's wagging his fingers at FBA.
you motherfuckers hate. Shut the fuck up. And even if I was an immigrant, I support the immigrant. If I went out there and protested for just immigration, even if black people wasn't also being affected, and I just went out there and
Nigga, we're not being affected by that. Immigrants are being affected, but not foundational Black Americans. We're not immigrants by any sense of the word. So no, we're not being affected by it. And they will say, yeah, but they've detained. Yeah, I've been detained before this ICE thing hit. If you're in a certain neighborhood, you'll get detained. What do you think stop and frisk is? They're detaining people. They've been detaining us. So now we're supposed to care. Look, if we can't all be equally comfortable, we're all going to be equally uncomfortable. Shout out to Big Bro, the Black Authority, the foundational Black Authority. Like, what are we talking about here? Yes, have some Black Americans been stopped? They were stopped and they're like, oh, he's FBA. All right, send you on your way. Now, these other people, the people who have been harassed, yeah, bruh. They can see the phenotypical differences, and then sometimes they can't, and then they hear, okay, yeah, they hear their accent. Then sometimes your paperwork is dirty. So stop acting like this is really our issue. Because if you ask other people, hey, is reparation for foundational Black Americans your issue as well? Because, right, we're all people of color. We should have solidarity with that issue. Instead, they're like, nope, you guys need to hold your own nuts on that. They won't it's not just reparations. They won't help us fight for an anti-black hate crime bill. They won't help us fight for anything that they can't get their hands on. So I say that's fine. Y'all fight for y'all issues, we fight for ours. And then they keep talking about solidarity, but their solidarity is just for us to be the punching bags, the crash test dummies, the doormats where we get stepped on, spit on, shot at. And then when some tangible benefits and some political legislation does get passed, we get left out of it. We'll be the mascot and it will go to someone else. i.e. DEI. They'll put a black face on there. You have wackos like Charlie Kirk. Oh, if I see a black pilot and all this other type of stuff, when the most beneficiaries from DEI was white people. White women specifically, but I always say if there's a straight white dude, he breaks his leg, he becomes handicapped. Now he's a minority entitled to the same benefits as a black person. If there's a white dude who was straight all his life and he says, instead of being Bob, I want to be Barbara, so I'm trans now. Well, he's part of a minority and marginalized group, so entitled to the same benefits as you. That's how DEI works. Then when they say, hey, look, we'll get a black person, but not from Chicago or Oakland or St. Louis. How about Senegal or Angola? See, that's us helping the blacks. So that's what DEI was all about. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Less than 4% of the total benefits went to black Americans. And this is why they use goofy terms like people of color, because that can mean anything. Apparently AOC is a person of color, and Elizabeth Warren, who's lily white but acting like Native American, she's a person of color. Like, none of this stuff's make any sense to you. And what color is AOC? AOC is the color as many white people, but she's not white. No, she's Hispanic. Yeah, but that's not a race. She's Latina. Yeah, but that's not a race. So what race is AOC? Hispanic. And it just keeps going on and on and on.
Get the fuck up. And even if I was an immigrant, I support the immigrant. If I went out there and protested for just immigration, even if black people wasn't also being affected, and I just went out there and protested just because I support my black brothers and sisters around the whole diaspora, then so fucking be it, nigga.
Okay.
You niggas some weirdos. That's showing how much hate.
Hold on. So now bro talking spicy. So you know, I gotta hit him.
And you know what, nigga? You acting like a little bitch right now. You acting like a little bitch right now, nigga. Man, fuck that. I ain't letting that shit ride.
And also, hey, bruh.
What? Ho, please. Nigga, please. Ho.
Nigga, what?
Nigga, please. Nigga, please. What?
Bro, calm down. Like, he's trying to talk extra spicy. Nigga, you're not tough at all. Just chill, bruh.
Black people wasn't also being affected, and I just went out there and protested just because I support my black brothers and sisters around the whole diaspora, then so fucking be it, nigga.
Okay.
You niggas some weirdos. That's showing how much hate you got in your fucking heart.
Here we go.
Now we weird and hateful because we don't want to go out and protest. So when people don't want to stand for our cause, are they weird and hateful? So this shit don't even make no sense. And many of us have been brainwashed to just be the doormat. Hey, we have to go out there and crash out for everybody. We have to be the saviors, even though people wouldn't piss on us, you know, if we were on fire, right? We still have to save them. That is our spirit, right? You know, we do have a very loving, generous spirit. And part of us, we want to be accepted, and we want to love people, but we also want to be loved by people. So sometimes we go extra lengths to show, hey, we're not like those stereotypes. Hey, I know you guys hate us and you think we're these sub-Saharan low IQ monkeys. No, we're not like that. And we'll prove it to you by crashing out for everyone's political cause. But it's like, the group you're crashing out for is not at the bottom. People will be think about it like this, right? The president, the most powerful person in all of the land, that would make the vice president the second most powerful person in all of the land. Now, when you think about the whole thing with minorities, right? They were saying that the big bad boogie white man was being the oppressor. He would have been the president. but the white woman was the vice president, and somehow they convince you that the vice president is oppressed. You're not even in the White House. You don't have a house at all. You don't even have boots to pull yourself up by your bootstrap. But somehow the white woman who was the vice president to the white man's president is somehow on the same footing as you in terms of the oppression Olympics. Hey, we were being oppressed too. Yeah, you were being oppressed by your white man, and no one should be against slavery more than the white women, because before the first chattel property, and shout out to Jason Black as he talks about this as well, the first chattel property was white women, right? They were property of their husbands, and to a certain extent they are. And that's where you hear the whole make America great again, trad wife, barefoot and pregnant. That's where you hear this type of rhetoric and all these things like that. But before, they were literally property, right? But they were okay with others being property. And it's just like they just wanted a better deal. So it's like, no, you guys weren't oppressed. You were the vice president. You're the second most powerful demographic in all of the land. But we've been brainwashed to think that they're just as oppressed as you. Right? Affirmative action was because we were being discriminated against, and affirmative action benefited mostly white women, which means it benefited white people because most white women marry white men. Therefore, it helps the white nuclear family. Same thing with DEI and any of these programs. People already know this type of stuff. So we've already crashed out for everyone. We've sacrificed everyone. We've had all of our resources drained, extracted, handed, and given to other people. So, yeah, bro, if you want to be boo-boo the fool and go out there and crash out for another group that won't do it for you, be my guest. Just stop trying to shame us for not going out there. We got bigger fish to fry. We got organization, mobilization, and strategizing to do.
I support my black brothers and sisters around the whole diaspora, then so fucking be it, nigga.
Okay.
You niggas some weirdos. That's showing how much hate you got in your fucking heart.
Here we go.
I got people making videos of me talking about you see, he's a divester. What the fuck are you talking about? Y'all learn words and just be chatting. He follows Imani B and Afeni. I follow them because they do a lot for local municipalities. They going hard in them streets. In PG County in Washington, D.C. Y'all don't be doing shit.
Here we go.
Y'all be talking about my ancestors did this, my ancestors did that. And then all the progress from all of your ancestors stops today because this generation is some lazy pieces of shit.
What?
Just living off the privilege, off the backs of their fucking grandparents.
Oh, no.
So what has this goofy nigga done? He can't say anything that he has done. He put on a do-rag and has on this Walmart robe. Like, nigga, what have you done besides get on a podcast and start yelling at other people that he's done? If he had done something, he would have been able to name off his accomplishments. Y'all niggas ain't doing nothing, and this what I've done, and this what I've done in my city. Instead, he's trying to big up some other people to say, hey, they do a lot. Okay, let's just say they are doing a lot. Nigga, what are you doing? You on the sideline caping for somebody. You ain't in the field, my nigga. You're in the stands spectating. Sit your whole ass down, nigga. Let the big boys take it from here.
Yeah, get off my meat, young. And I'm not saying none of this shit to prove that I'm black. I really don't give a fuck what your opinion
Yes, you do. First of all, this guy, Alkio.
I hate when people say, I really don't care what y'all saying, but you addressing it. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck what y'all think about me, but I'm going to address y'all, telling y'all based on what we said about you. If you didn't care what people said about you, why are you responding to things that people said about you? Like I said, and this dude is an emotional, effeminate wreck. Sit your moist ass down, nigga.
Yeah, get off my meat, young. And I'm not saying none of this shit to prove that I'm black. I really don't give a fuck what your opinion
Yes, you do. First of all, this guy, Alki, or whatever his name is mad disrespectful. Mad disrespectful. Sitting up here calling Black Americans lazy because we don't want to fight for illegal immigration against ICE. Make it make sense. Like, literally, what is it? 92% of Black women literally said after Kamala, because a lot of them voted for Kamala, they said, we're going to be resting. We ain't doing nothing.
So of the black women that voted, 92% of them voted for Kamala Harris, right? So they actually voted for more of the open border, more of the lenient immigrant policy. I know the Democrats would have put some sort of amnesty pathway to citizenship that they wouldn't have called that, but that's ultimately what it would have been, end up being, a more revamping of the DACA program, right? So black women are saying, hey, look, we voted to protect y'all behinds. And many of y'all was in the street. I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. Yeah, y'all was in the streets. Y'all was on cruise ships. Y'all was getting it in, doing the salsa, merengue. Y'all was drinking horchata, talking about, I will vote for Donald Trump. Yeah, y'all was hyped up. And then people said, hey, you know what? Donald Trump is talking about building a wall and deporting y'all. He was calling y'all rapists, killers, thugs, and all that stuff. We're going to vote to protect y'all. And y'all said, nope, I will vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, then you got what you voted for. Most of the ICE agents, or at least a significant amount of them, are Latino. Same thing with Border Patrol. So, yeah, y'all got to hold your own nuts on this one. I'm letting y'all, this is what y'all voted for. Who am I to intervene against the will of the people, right? They always talk about democracy, right? That's as democratic as it gets. They chose to be ICE officers. They chose to be Border Patrol officers. They chose to be sheriffs and other law enforcement officers. This is what they chose. And they chose to vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, this is the result. Like, what more do you want us to do? Get real.
Immigration against ICE. Make it make sense. Like, literally, what is it? 92% of black women literally said after Kamala, because a lot of them voted for Kamala, they said, we're going to be resting. We ain't doing nothing else, because everybody else voted for the man that's in office. A lot of people, a lot of the immigrants that you sitting up here putting a heavy cape on for, voted against their own interests, and they voted against the interests of their illegal counterparts. That was not black people that did that. So for you to get up here and literally say, first of all, let's get into the whole FBA thing, right? People say, oh, they call me FBA. I've been called an FBA princess, a Fed. Then this guy named Conscious Lee, whoever that is popping it in the comments talking about, oh, the FBA is the feds. No, the FBA is not. But who is a federally legalized agency is ICE. Now, if you want to go and antagonize ICE and go and fight up against ICE for people that literally all we're saying is go and take the proper steps to get your paperwork together. And a lot of those people are very anti-Black American. So I don't, child. Anyways, like I said, getting into it about FBA, right? I was one of those that did not even used to like to call myself Black, because I would be like, my skin is brown. I absolutely was one of those. I still don't really even like the term Black. Like, let's just really go there. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. However, I would call myself melanin rich, mocha brown. Like, I would just recognize my skin tone.
All right, so let me go there right here. So she says she doesn't like the term Black, and I get it, right? And she says she would call herself melanin rich. Calling yourself, everyone has melanin. So like when we say Black, there's a certain level of ownership and specificity with it. We were the only ones that leaned into it. And this is why you hear many FBAs saying, oh, so-and-so, this person is not Black, or we are the only Black people, because all of these other people, they try to act like we forgotten. They act like this was just like in AD times or something. But people always use, it wasn't just Dominicans. I know Black Poppy. It wasn't just them. I'm not Black, I'm Haitian. I'm not Black, I'm Nigerian. I ain't Black, I'm Igbo. I ain't Black, I'm Yoruba. I ain't Black, I'm Brazilian. I ain't Black, I'm this. So, and then we used to try to convince people, no, you tripping. You in America, this is the land of the one drop rule. You are Black. We used to try to convince people, and they would be saying, no, I'm not Black. They would be delineating. And for decade after decade after decade, we were just trying to tell people, hey, look, this is how it work here. You Black, but we were almost tethering people who actually wasn't Black, who didn't identify, because it's ultimately not only about your lineage, but how you identify. And now people want to just say, hey, I never was identifying as Black, but now there's some benefits to it. There's some sort of cultural camaraderie or cohesion. So now I will identify as Black, but that's like putting on a coat and then, hey, here, taking it off. It's like, nah, we been black. We was born black. We gonna die black. You get around at the cookout, you black. You go around somebody else. You say you mix. You go around somebody else. You say you Hispanic. It's just like, man, we're not playing these games anymore. Before we didn't say anything. But now it's like, yeah, those days are over. We need to get specific in terms of what our group is doing and what our group isn't doing. We want disaggregation of the data. No different than if you called the Native Americans, American Indians, and say, hey, y'all all one big Indian, right? People would think that's offensive. But ain't that what they do with us? Oh, y'all all one big global nigga. No, like Nigerians, Senegalese people, they don't do the same things. They don't all look the same. So it's making you this just generic African. So you're all just an amalgamated group. You're no different than a Somali. Somalis who didn't consider themselves black. Many of them call themselves Arab. Well, they're African and they're African just like you. No, they're not. You know what I mean? So now when we delineate and then we actually have pride for being black and have pride for being American, people want to try to make it like a bad thing. And then this woman also said that, oh, I want to say I was melanin rich, which everyone has melanin. So that's not specific. You know, Vivek Ramaswamy has melanin. Nikki Nimrata Haley has melanin. She's melanin rich as well. You are melanin richer, but it's like, okay, when you say you're melanin rich, who are you talking about? A dark Indian, a dark Samoan? Then she said, I like to say I'm mocha brown. Well, what makes brown so much better than black? And then they have a lot of negative things they say about brown people. They call them shit skins and all sorts of other stuff. So how much positive is that anyways? When people are saying they're black, no one is saying my skin is black. Just like white people, they call Trump the orange man, but he's a white man. But is his skin white? So when we're saying we're black, and this is where people act confusing. Hey, nobody's skin is black. Yeah, and we're not saying our skin is black. Most FBAs, our skin is brown. But we're not identifying as the color. The color is our ethnonym, our ethnic and racial identifier. That's what we're saying. So most of us are brown. Even the people that are brown, they don't go around identifying themselves as brown. We were the only ones having pride for being black. But it's funny because sometimes people are like, I don't even like calling myself black, and they'll try to go the definition of being black. But let's put it in a different way. Let's just take it in a fashion sense, since black is so bad. If you was with your lady and she had some lingerie, would you rather her wear some black lingerie or some brown lingerie? If you was walking down the fashion aisle, would you rather be in some black gear or some brown gear? I'm just saying, like all of the stuff, all of the negative connotations, right? That it's only if you believe it, right? They put all of the purest angelic connotations with whiteness and all of the evil connotations with blackness, but hey, that's only if you subscribe to that. I mean, if you got some black shoes, they match with everything. That's just like our culture. It's a mismatch and it goes with everything. Whether you want some jazz, some blues, some R&B, hip hop, some joking, some roasting, our culture goes with everything because it's black. It's kind of like that Crystal's hot sauce. You can put it on a little bit of everything. Hey, you want to put it on some cup of noodles? Hey, you want to put it on some mac and cheese? Hey, you want to put it on some steak? It goes on everything because we are the secret sauce. But we've been convinced that black is so bad. That's why you got people like James Brown and others say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. When others were trying to distance themselves from blackness, which I understand. But then when people try to double back and be like, hey, I was blackity black the whole time. Actually, you wasn't. Like, let's not play these games now. And then people say goofy shit. There's no country called black and there's no country called white. There's no country called white and it hasn't stopped them from dominating, right? So doesn't matter. There's no country called Africa either. There's no country called Africa, right? It's a continent comprised of multiple countries, but there's no country called Africa. But you want me to call myself African to a continent that I've never been? Like, come on now.
Anyways, like I said, getting into it about FBA, right? I was one of those that did not even used to like to call myself black because I would be like, my skin is brown. I absolutely was one of those. I still don't really even like the term black. Like, let's just really go there. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. However, I would call myself melanin rich, mocha brown. Like, I would just recognize my skin tone because I was under the impression, which is still true, multiple things to be true at the same time, that calling yourself black means that, black has like a connotation, a negative connotation. It kind of means like you're unalived and you don't, and that your status is like lesser, basically. And of course,
but that's a social construct. So she's saying that it's true and two things can be true at the same time. But yeah, it's like based on who's saying that. And if you subscribe to this ideology that, oh yeah, it's a lower status, then you're automatically, by her subscribing to this, she's already putting white on a higher status than her. Like, inadvertently or subconsciously, she's doing that. No, I don't want to be associated with black because of the lower status and all this stuff. So you recognize that there's a certain level of stratification. So people will say race is a social construct. I don't know why you're telling me that, because you adhere to the social construct. No one is forcing you to adhere to it. So since you do, we have to operate within the parameters that are been put forth. So, so it's funny because it's like, I will call she says she would call herself mocha brown or melanin rich. There's no box on the census to check that says mocha brown or melanin rich. There's no box that says brown. So even if she checked that box and then we all said, hey, look, man, we shouldn't call ourselves black. We should call ourselves melanin rich Americans or Moorish Americans or okay, then they're just going to demonize that. It's not the term. It's the people. It's the lineage. So that's another thing that people have got confused. Oh, the reason why they disrespecting us is because y'all calling yourselves a color. I ain't no color. I'm an Israelite, okay? And they still going to call you a nigga. I'm mocha brown, nigga. I'm melanin rich, nigga. So it's like, it doesn't really matter what you call yourself, it's about your lineage that they're attacking, not what you're calling yourself. They will attack what you're calling yourself, but it's not really so much the name. It's about the lineage.
As like a connotation, a negative connotation. It kind of means like you're unalived and you don't, and that your status is like lesser, basically. And of course, black, white, all of those things are social constructs. But then when I really started to read more about, black pride and why we called ourselves black, and looking at Black American as an ethnic marker versus it just being like a color, that's when I started to say, okay, I can identify with Black American comfortably. You know what I mean? And I still prefer melanin rich. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. But to call FBA, so I don't really like labels that much, but technically by definition, if you do not have an immigrant background in this country, you are FBA. FBA stands for Foundational Black American, which means that you have a long lineage in this country, which means that you might be, from descendants of slaves, or your family was just here since the inception of this country, since before the United States of America was established as the USA, right? So to say that all of FBA or anybody who doesn't have an immigrant background that's black is a weirdo because they're saying they don't want to march for illegal immigration at that. Like, it's not just immigration rights. I think this is going over everybody's head. It's not just immigration just because they're Latino, or they're just being targeted just because they are African, or just because they are from Sweden. No, it's because they are not legally here in the country. Why would you even encourage people that we do not have a good standing relationship with any type of law enforcement or any type of authority in this country? They are waiting, they're itching to use us as target practice. Why would you encourage us to go out there and march? And you sitting up here talking about people are lazy in your fucking robe, sitting on your couch. That is what annoys me. It is always the ones that is not out doing fuck all. You ain't doing shit, but sitting on your couch popping it in a robe, calling people lazy. Why don't you get your big, beautiful, black, dark-skinned ass? Because you're like, oh, just because I'm dark, that doesn't mean I'm African. And people being xenophobic toward me because I'm calling. How dare you call us lazy because we don't want to fight for people that never fought for us? Now, y'all gonna bring up Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. Okay, first of all, it was a pandemic. A lot of y'all just wanted to get out the house. Y'all wanted to loot and riot, and it was something that was trendy.
Yeah, that whole Black Lives Matter people was not out there fighting for Black people, because even the people when the most of the protesters out there were white, like over 90+% of the protesters. Don't take my word for it. Just do a simple Google search. So most of them were white, and many of them were just protesting just because they want to be out there and to use it as something later. Hey, I marched with George Floyd, and after George Floyd died, multiple other people were unalived by the cops, one of them being Tyree Nichols, who was murdered in, some would argue, a much more barbaric fashion than George Floyd. There was no marching then. There was no police reform. When Biden got in, what happened to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Biden said, no, we're not going to defund the police. We're going to refund the police. So a lot of those people were saying, hey, I bought a BLM shirt, so that means that I showed solidarity with the Black community. No, they didn't. Because when it was out there were trans lives matter out there, all lives matter, no lives matter, Palestinian lives matter, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, Antifa, all sorts of other agitators and groups that had nothing to do with the police brutality that disproportionately left Black men suffering fatalities, right? And then they like to bring up the 2 or 3 Black women and say, look, they were scamming. Okay, fine, they were. But there was a lot of hundreds of millions being floated through big institutions. And instead of tracking that money, they just want to blame the 3 Black women, just like how it is in Minnesota. Yes, there were some Somalis who were scamming to the tune of hundreds of millions, but then they were talking about billions. Some of the reports say close to 8 to 9 billion. The ringleader of the scamming was a white woman. So they were talking about Somalis have a culture of scamming, but they didn't say that the white people have a culture of scamming, even though they were the ringleaders for the fraud. So where have we seen and heard this before?
Not to say that all of you, did not stand in solidarity, but a majority of you just was hopping on. You don't want to fight for people that never fought for us. Now, y'all gonna bring up Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. Okay, first of all, it was a pandemic. A lot of y'all just wanted to get out the house. Y'all wanted to loot and riot, and it was something that was trendy. Not to say that all of you, did not stand in solidarity, but a majority of you just.
So let me address this, because G-Rock Blues, you're being extremely emotional. So he's saying, hey, why you ain't talking about the wig, bro? Why you ain't talking about the wig? Somebody else was talking about Kristi Noem wig, and I applied. So if you got something you want to say about the wig, then go say. I mean, it sounds like you got a crush on Kristi Noem. I don't know, bruh. I mean, put your cape on and slide in her DMs. If you want to make a slick comment about her hair or her wig, nothing is stopping you. What do you want me to say about it?
This was hopping on the trend train. Let's just keep it real. And that's just one instance. We've been doing this fight for centuries alone. Like, let's just call a spade alone. And a lot of immigrants that come over there, they align themselves with white supremacy. They use those same talking points against us. Why do everybody keep acting like we should get up there and be shields for people that don't like us, that literally tell us we ain't it, they're doing so much better than us, and you gonna sit up here with your Black ass and call us lazy and say we just keep leeching off of our ancestors and what they did? That's what we're supposed to do, numbnuts. Y'all don't say nothing about the white tea that's leeching off that's leeching off nepotism, that's able to walk into corporations, is not even half qualified because of what their forefathers laid down. Y'all don't say nothing about that. But when it comes to us, we don't get to reap the benefits to any degree. We should not be proud of the lineage that we came from. We shouldn't be proud that everybody, immigrants included, could walk around and have basic, decent human rights because of what our ancestors fought for. Talking about y'all don't do nothing. It was y'all ancestors. And what are you doing but sitting on your couch? This is just so disrespectful. And all 50 million people without an immigrant background are not all the same. Let's start there. Anyway, spread love is a Brooklyn way. What y'all think? I know this is long, but child, he got me up here ranting on a goddamn Monday morning.
Okay, so that was the video. That was the Love Jones show right there. She was doing her little rant. And yeah, I mean, I concur. Many people, they want FBAs to go out there. They want us to crash out. They want us to be on the front line. But this is not our fight. Our fight is to clean up all the stuff that y'all can be complaining about. 1350. Fatherless homes, all this other stuff, right? So we got to clean that stuff up. How can we be cleaning up the alleged degeneracy and the fatherless homes and the literacy rates? How can we clean that up if we're out in the street protesting ICE, potentially getting unalived? Yeah, I think we need to keep our black behinds home and handle our business there. But I do appreciate all of y'all that slid through watching this concurrently and that will be watching this on the replay, gang. I'm going to get ready to shut her down. But before I do that, I'm going to send y'all off the right way with a few visuals. And then we're going to wrap this thing up. And just to give y'all a friendly reminder, it won't cost you a fee. The likes are free. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay abreast with the content. I'll be delivering more sporadic impromptu streams until I get a set and solid schedule. I'm trying to get a feel of when is the best time that my supporters come on and watch. Most of the people that support me are not even subbed to the channel, but hey, at least the viewership is viewing. So for that, I thank you. But at least, you know, if you would like to make a contribution, you can hit the Cash App, or you can support me for free by time for a like intermission. We kindly request that you show love to the channel's creator and platform by leaving a like, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest content. Liking posts is completely free and helps the algorithm boost our reach. We want to grow the community larger and larger. So thank you all who take the time to support us. It does mean the world to us and doesn't go unnoticed. And I also want to give a shout out to Jackie Gaines and also Vibrant. They were sharing the Cash App in the chat. But in case you didn't see that,
You think it's about time you gave me my money? Want my money? I need cash. Please send that money. Please send that money. Please send that money. Want my money? I need cash. Want my money? I need cash. Want my money?
okay, so as we're winding down, you know, I gotta hit ya. Yeah. Hey. B-Eazy, that dude, shit so hot it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up.
I bring the pain like an aftermath of a car wreck. It's a lot of niggas that say they real, but to me that shit is far-fetched. Some cats is pussy, they really is on some feminine stuff. I ride up on them with the 40 ounces. It's the definition of adrenaline rush. What it do is sweet like cinnamon puffer. My niggas is rough like Willow Pass. Grew up out on Mary Mac, but I used to hang on Willow Pass. These homes that I roll with, outcasts and misfits. Better zip lips when you get hit when the fifth spit. Flat line of your fit. Trap habits is black magic, no voodoo. Get the bands like Buku for the cocaine to go cuckoo. Most these niggas is foo-foo, so I'm shitting on them like doo-doo. I can't fuck with y'all like tofu. I'm just saying, man, like Goku. Bad bitches at the house with me watching Netflix or Roku. Fuck them both at the same time, and I swear to God it was so cool. Street legend, real boss, I call shots cause I'm still saucy. I know some G's to the bike crack on Chirac and then fly back out the mill. When they hear me flow, they say I be burning up, burning up. Cookie to the draw is what we burning up, burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up, burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. When you hear me flow, say I be burning up, burning up. Cookie to the draw is what we burning up, burning up. What you ain't know, oh,
name. Stacking up the paper, but having money ain't a thing. Standing on business, burning hotter than a flame. From the block to the ballroom, you gotta stand the rain. B-Eazy, that dude, yeah, they know the name. Stacking up the paper, but having money ain't a thing. Standing on business, burning hotter than a flame. From the block to the ballroom, you gotta stand the rain. B-Eazy, that dude, yeah, they know the name. Big Glock to B-Eazy, that dude.
You love me.